You're amazing, dude.
Thanks. I like to play.
Today on the Rushmore Show, we're finishing up Music March with our Rushmore drummers. Stay to the end and see who our super band would be. Let's get it! Woo!
Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and nothing more. We're so excited. We are wrapping up Music March today with quite possibly my favorite episode, or my favorite topic that we've talking about for the longest time. Today,
George of
topics is this. Today, we're wrapping up Music March with our Rushmore of drummers. Man, I am so excited. Kirk, how you feeling about this episode?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into drumming. Drumming is probably my favorite piece of the band. I just small note. It's one of the things that actually kept me in church, to be honest. We had such great drummers at our church. And I navigated my way to the front just to be mesmerized and watching, guys like Greg or Jimmy playing the drums. I love drums. It's what draws me to a band. It's just really, really, I'm really excited. And when we have a guest today, so I'm really excited about that too. So
that is
Andy, tell us who's on with us.
Well, Kirk, that's a perfect segue talking about church drummers. We have our special guest today, Kade McCallister. Thank you. Welcome to the Rushmore Show.
Welcome, Kade.
So excited you're here today. Go ahead and let everybody know, how long have you played drums? Why did we bring you on the show today to talk about drums and kind of what's your story, how you got into drums and all of that?
Yeah, I can tell you why. I can't tell you why you brought me on the show, but I've been playing drums for 10, 11 years now.
Yeah.
And so I started when I was about 7 or 8, played for a year or two. I had like a little black Rogers drum set from Walmart or something, and played it for a year or two, put it away. And then in early high school, I started playing again, and I've been playing ever since. Yeah. So after the drumming little spit I did for about a year or two, in the 5th grade I played trombone for 2 years. I was first chair.
I love the trombone. That's a weird instrument.
Yeah, I have it right here. Right here.
Look at that thing.
You always have your trombone ready just in case. You never know when you need it.
Drums are right there. Just you got to turn the camera a little bit. You'll see them. Yeah, I have everything. Yeah, is handy. So
that's nice, man.
I
you
picked
get
the loudest
money for that thing.
But yeah. Thank you so much for having me, though.
Awesome.
I'm excited to talk about.
Hey, look, trombone reminds me of I was just home from Mardi Gras, and one of my favorite things about Mardi Gras, like the George of Mardi Gras for me, is the bands, especially when it's a good marching band. Oh, yeah. And the best part of the band, I want to be that really big dude holding that big drum and just does this the whole way. Boom, boom, boom. Whoa. I mean, like they were walking by and I was like, that is so loud. Right. But like we watched right under the overpass. So as they were coming under, dude, it was so good. It's my favorite part. I love I'm just mesmerized by the drums. So we're going to jump into drums, right?
Yes.
Let's go.
So we're talking again today, our Rushmore of drummers. Music March. I'm going to go ahead and start us off today. We're going to get started with our Rosie of drummers.
So Andy, what's your criteria of putting this together? Because look, I know straight up about 15 drummers, right? Most of them were from church, one of them being you. And as we've had Rushmore conversations, drummer was kind of one of those that was there first, just because you drum and I'm trying to learn, Mm-hmm. So I'm sure your list is much longer than mine when it comes to having to shed people off. So what was the criteria that you put together to pick this list?
Yeah, so this was difficult, just like you said, right? Playing drums for the majority of my life. having influences from so many different areas and times of my life. But what I did was that every single drummer that I picked has influenced my playing to some extent. There are amazing drummers out there. You know, and again, I could probably list off 100 right now if we were just thinking through them. But everyone that I picked has a direct influence on how I play, or it was just a major influence in me wanting to get behind a drum kit. Funny story real quick is that I have an uncle who was a studio drummer, right? And did a lot of that kind of stuff, his work. And when I was just expressing my interest to my parents that I wanted a drum kit and I wanted all this, he would tell my parents, "I'll just get him a snare drummer, just get him something small that he can start on and see if he likes it at first." And after he said that, I remember telling my parents, "I don't want just a freaking snare drum. I want the whole drum kit. I want everything," right? And thankfully they did buy me one, and the rest is history. But every drummer that I'm going to mention today has a direct influence on my style. And I'll just say that probably all four of these are going to make everybody's top 50 drummers. I would probably say that these are all going to be those guys. There's some Rushmores that we do where we're off the wall, and it's like, this guy is definitely not making critics ones, but I would say these certainly do that. So, and also just like the vocalists and guitarists, these have to be drummers that I listen to, right? There's amazing drummers. Like, I'm gonna come off the bat right now and give you just an honorable mention. Who did not make my list was Keith Moon. Fantastic drummer. One of the greatest drummers of all time. I just don't listen to the Who. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking.
How about Buddy Rich? Jazz? Doing a little jazz? Here's the cool thing about Buddy Rich. I think he actually influenced most of the guys we're about to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. But I just don't listen. I'm never like, man, put on some Buddy Rich today. Like, it's just not, I don't know. That's never a word. That's the first time I've ever said that sentence. So anyway. But let me.
Well, it's probably the last time as well.
Yeah, let me go ahead and get into my Rushmore.
Let's go. Let's hear. What's your Rosie of drummers? Number 4.
My number 4, of drummers, is Danny Carey from Tool.
Oh, good pick.
Danny Carey. Funny note. I was just kind of looking up some things. Just kind of Googling some of their story and some, just getting some information on them. And when I typed in Danny Carey on Google, you know how like when you look at Google, there's like the suggested search topics or whatever. Like the second one said, "Is Danny Carey human?" And it's a great question to ask because, man, there are so many songs that they play where the time signature, and I don't want to get too technical, but usually the two standards are 4/4 and 3/4, like that's, or 6/8, whatever. That's like the types.
See, now you lost me. Now you lost.
Count to 4, count to 6. That's all you need. Okay. So, but some of the time signatures that Danny Carey does, it's like 9/8, like stupid. It just doesn't make sense in my head. And it's not only like, I think if I sat down, like I can learn the part, but the crazy part to me is that he wrote that part, right? He designed this part in this kind of time signature. There's one song called Lateralis by Tool where they actually, it's so crazy. They switch mid-song. There's a 9/8 that they switch to a 7/8, and then they go to an 8/8, all within the same song. And you're like, I don't know. I just don't get it, right? So he does so many crazy things. The influence on my playing, obviously I'm not playing nearly to the level that Danny Carey plays, but I remember I would always, when I would buy drumsticks, I loved Danny Carey's signature sticks. Something about like the shape of them. That was the sticks I always bought. And then obviously just like listening to him and trying to emulate some of his ability to the best of my ability, but it doesn't happen. Man, if you haven't done a lot of listening to Tool, you may not be a big fan of kind of like that genre of music, but if you are a musician or just appreciate the instrument, I highly suggest go check out Danny Carey from Tool, and you are just going to be amazing.
Well, we kind of talked about it earlier. Maynard could have possibly been on our vocals, right? And I do believe we talk about bassist and guitar. The other parts of that band could even make it on those. That band is not, it doesn't necessarily is always somebody else's favorite, but it is a dude, they are technically strong in everything.
Yeah. So Danny Carey, Rosie on my Rushmore. Kirk, let's move to your Rosie. Who's your number 4?
Bro, that's a good pick. That's a great pick. But I'm going to go with someone that I probably won't be. Well, I still think they're in the top 50 of everybody if they really kind of look at him. But he's from a kind of a different kind of genre, a genre that I love. I'm going to go with a guy named Frank Wright, but he's better known as Tré Cool. Tré Cool from Green Day and punk rock. Well, let me just say this. Going back to the influences, I'm picking it all the same exact things that Andy's picking, except I'm not a drummer. So I'm not looking at time signatures. I'm looking at what makes me just have fun, what I hear. I'm hearing good sound. And the thing that I love about Tré Cool, in nearly every song, he just has this unique like pattern. Like he's just I can kind of tell that that's him. He's the signature punk rock band. If it for me, when Longview came out, that beginning, the intro to that, and just the whole Dookie CD, to be honest, and that's fun to say, Dookie.
And that's just a fun, like that might be Rushmore of album titles of all time.
Yeah, and that might be Rushmore of album covers too, if you really look at it. It's like a Where's Waldo, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyways, back to Tré Cool. Love him, love his hair, love the whole band. Seen him in concert. Seen them play actually twice, and just great performance. Love the sound. And I wanted to pick somebody that I absolutely probably knew wasn't going to make mini lists but somebody that was really favorite and influential to me. There was a couple other guys that I thought were going to land on this spot. You know, number 4 is always the tough one. But at the end, I'm going to probably blurt out about 10 of those guys like I did for vocals and guitars. So number 4, my Rosie, going to be a little obscure, but my favorite, Tré Cool.
Awesome.
So Kade, man, our guest. So look, Cade's the youngest on the list, so I'm expecting some diversity a little bit here. But
like Little Peep or something, right?
Yeah. So Kade, man. So here, just a little education on how we do it. Number 4 is Rosie for Roosevelt. So he's the number 4 guy on our mountain. So you're gonna give us who your 4th guy is. So go ahead. Let me hear who your Rosie is.
Yeah. Ironically, I'm the youngest, but I'm picking the oldest guy for my number 4, which is Buddy Rich.
Let's go!
Just for the sheer amount of time and hours I've watched his solos on YouTube. I mean, hundreds of hours, just watching every video on repeat till 2 a.m. as a young drummer, just trying to figure out like, okay, how is he doing that? Like, because the way he moves around the drum kit is the smoothest, the fastest than compared to any drummer. And obviously he's the father of drumming. So you have to go with Buddy Rich for number 4.
Funny story, Cade. This picture behind me, I was going to put Buddy Rich because I thought he'd be kind of the godfather of that. Right. And I found a video where he's like playing just on a snare. And my favorite thing about it is the top comment says, think about how good he'd be if he was awake. Because he looks like he's sleeping.
That's a great pick. That's a surprise, honestly. Dude,
I love that pick. I love that pick because I knew he wasn't going to make R2, but he definitely deserves to be on the mountain. So that is an awesome pick, man. Way to go. All right.
You mentioned this kind of here, like you just spent so many hours watching Buddy Rich on YouTube. And it's a really cool thing now that's available because the drummer that I'm going to get into in a minute kind of when I first started playing drums, I didn't take lessons. This is what I did, was listening to him on a CD. But now there's the ability, I say now, but it's been around for a little bit, where it's like you could just watch these guys for hours on end, right? And try to pick up some of that influence. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, especially as a drummer, because like guitarist and singing, that's one thing to kind of emulate your favorite artist. But drumming, if you're Neil Peart, you got 800 drums on the stage, so you have no idea what he's hitting at that point. So the video element in today's age is amazing for aspiring drummers. Yeah,
and actually that's when I suggest we've had some kids come through youth who've been interested in playing drums, and I'll show them like the very basic things, like here's how you hold a stick, right? Like, or just very simple, like here, let's count to 4, let's clap it, right? And then I say, what my next suggestion is like, go home, get on YouTube, and just keep watching and practicing and trying.
Well, how about the influence of drumming? I mean, I've watched that often, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't even. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we are done with our Rosie. We're going to move to TJ Jazzy Jeff now. And I just kind of gave you a little preface. This guy, my TJ Jazzy Jeff, was a massive influence on my playing. And I have kind of a funny story behind it. But I'm going to go with Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Chad Smith is so fantastic, so amazing. When I first started, so I picked up the drums when I was about 13. And the way that I learned to play drums, I'm taking you back. Cade, I don't know if you went through this era of this. Maybe you did a little bit. We're not too far off, but I had a portable CD player. And I remember putting on Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers, putting that CD in. I sat it on my floor tom, okay, because I didn't have a table. I didn't have anything. My drums were in my room. So I was like, well, I can't play the floor tom, but whatever. I've got these other 2 up here. I'm good. And I would play it, and I had, again, I didn't have the in-ear headphones. I just had those little ones that just flush up against your ear, not even the over ear. I mean, it was literally just whatever came with the CD player. And I would try so hard to play to Chad Smith's drumming in Red Hot Chili Peppers. Obviously was nowhere near it. When I first started, I didn't even play the kick drum. I was like, let me just figure out how to do 2 different things, like with my left and my right hand. That was my number one thing. But as I was playing that, for those that remember the portable CD player life, if I played too hard, the CD would skip. And I had to pause. And then I'd come back in, right? And I'd try. But man, fond memories of just listening.
That's awesome.
I can't tell you how many times I listened to that CD in particular, but Red Hot Chili Peppers, and just tried to kind of match his style. And some of the way that he plays still kind of sticks with me. It's still part of my playing style. It's what I did through playing in bands. And then obviously even carrying some of those things over into worship and everything has been fantastic. Also, side note, he looks exactly like one of my favorite actors of all time.
You stole my joke. I was going to say Chad Smith was really good in Anchorman.
Yeah. So there's always this running joke that he is Will Ferrell.
He's an imposter.
There's this video that's out there that maybe I'll link in here too, where Chad Smith is playing with the Kansas University band at a basketball game, and they're playing "Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire," and that dude is crazy. He's so good. He's all over the place, but like he kind of mixes like rock and funk and a little bit of those genres all together into one, and it's a style all of his own. And when you listen to Chad Smith, Red Hot Chili Peppers, I mean, you know who it is. You know who it is that's playing that. So that's my TJ Jazzy.
Another great pick. I love Chad Smith, and he nearly made my list, but he's probably in that 5 range for me. But look, here's a cool thing. There is someone that you said that made my list, and we're gonna have our first Crushmore. Okay, our Crushmore is when someone picks the same thing from both of us. And so with that being said, I'm going to go with Danny Carey.
Nice.
And look, man, I couldn't go with this list without having Danny Carey. Original list, he wasn't there. I kind of had some guys like the Chad Smiths of the world that were kind of teetering in that 4 spot. We always know it's 4. And man, he kind of even blew up higher to the 3 spot because I started watching some things and I was reminded how insanely talented his drumming is and how much influence he actually has on music and other drummers. He's been in so many bands. First off, I completely forgot that he was in Green Jelly. Like as Danny Longlegs, right? I completely forgot that. And that just makes me laugh, to be honest. He's been in several other bands like Meat Puppets and Skinny Puppy. And dude, he's been in all kinds of stuff. He's helped out all kinds of, like, people are always seeking out Danny. But Schism, Lateralis. But we mentioned already that, you know, Maynard could have made our list in the vocalist, and all of the guys on their list could make a list, to be honest. They're very technically sound, and I couldn't pass up and feel good and sleep at night without putting Danny Carey on the list. The only reason I kind of thought of without maybe is Tool's really not my go-to. You mentioned it. It's a little bit of a different kind of genre, but their videos are like, I remember when the video came out, like everybody's like, this is so creepy and weird. But
Nightmare Fuel.
Oh gosh, it was like Tim Burton meets, Friday the 13th. I don't know, like it was just wild. But anyways, Tool is a great band, and Danny Carey definitely makes my mountain. So for my TJ Jazzy Jeff for Roosevelt, we're gonna go number 3, Danny Carey. All right, Cade. So TJ Jazzy Jeff, man, this is going to be your number 3. You shocked us on number 4. Let's see what it looks like. Who is your third spot on the mountain?
All right, number 3. I hinted at it before on accident, didn't realize it, but my number 3 is Neil Peart.
It's just Peart.
You sure that it's not Peart?
Yeah, Rush, awesome band. Besides that, yeah, his the amount of drums he plays is always incredible to watch. It's always a feat. But then
how much is that drum kit, by the way? I mean, like, gosh.
Hundreds of thousands. Absolutely, yeah.
and he's got a different one, like.
Yeah, and he has a 360. He can play. Well, rest in peace, not anymore. But he would play all the way around and play.
And then he'd be like playing amazing on like a xylophone and a keyboard and a 17 different like cowbells and
the percussion. Yeah, it was every percussion instrument possible. Yeah. But yeah, it's just coordination and precision is just absolutely like it's a joy to watch. Just him like command the drums, and then obviously like his legacy with Rush and everything else he did was so influential to me. So yeah, that's why he's my number 3.
Sweet.
Wow, solid pick.
That is a solid pick, dude. You're surprising me. I mean, you're not surprising me. You're a drummer. So you're gonna pick these. I just knew that we were gonna have something, and maybe it's coming. So
maybe.
So hey, Andy, man, we're halfway through. So this is Lincoln. Number 2. And I kind of have a feeling I know what's happening. So
all right, so let me just tell you this before I get into my 2 and my 1. These next 2 drummers are locked in for life as my number 2 and my number 1. I talk about a lot of Rushmores, how like tomorrow it can change, but these 2 are always on there. And I actually even contemplated before we did this episode taking them off of my Rushmore because I feel like it's unfair to everyone else. Like there's only 2 spots you can fight for on my Rushmore of drummers, but instead I decided, hey, look, I'm going to keep them. I want to.
These are the goats, man. These are the
goats. This is literally. There's no way they ever make it off my mountain. Right?
Goats, goats, man. Let's go.
Here we go. Number 2, Link is a
Rushmore
with Cade. His pick that he just made, Neil Peart.
Oh wow,
is my Link. Neil Peart. He just. I don't have enough time today to tell you everything. Everything you mentioned before, Cade, just the technicality and like the precision at which he drums. And like, you think about it, there's like 100 drums and cymbals and different things on his kit, and they're all strategically placed in the right spot. Can you imagine being Neil Peart's drum tech? Like, I don't know.
Probably has 5. Yeah.
So I'm saying he's got to have a huge team of people that take care of his drums and set them up and everything. But man, Neil Peart, so many amazing things. One of the things I used to like to do is I would take you don't have this anymore, but like in the CDs and stuff, you could take the insert out and you can look at like who played what instrument on every song and who wrote it and, all of these different facts about the songs. And when you look at, I remember I had the CD Moving Pictures and you would look at it and Neil Peart played like the glockenspiel on things. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, right? It's like he was credited for the gong. Like, there's just so many, like, I think Kirk, you mentioned like xylophone and just not just the drums. His nickname, what he's known as is the Professor, right? He's many people call him that. He is world class. Obviously, rest in peace. I'm so glad I actually got to go see them live in their last tour when they came to New Orleans, which was not long before he passed. So to be in the same stadium when YYZ starts playing, I was like, man, this is it. Like I've had the opportunity of a lifetime now to see Rush live, and they were fantastic, right? And it's another band where Geddy Lee made our Rushmore or made my Rushmore of bassists, where it's like there's 3 members in that band. You realize that there's 3 consistent members in that band, and the sound that they produce is insane.
And Lifeson almost made our guitar. He was there.
Maybe the most underrated guitarist out there, right? And it's, hey, look, when you're paired with Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, I mean, I guess that's easy to happen. But man,
and honestly, Geddy Lee for bassist, but he's a heck of a vocalist too,
and keyboardist, and just songwriter. I mean, and that's another thing. Neil Peart. I know we're not talking about songwriting. So many of the Rush songs were written by Neil Peart. Right? Yeah. Not even, you don't see that a lot. Like the drummer is the person writing the vocals and writing the lyrics and putting the songs together. I want to say this about Neil Peart. And one of the distinguishing things with Neil Peart to me, and a lot of fantastic drummers do this, they don't just play the drums to fill a spot, right? Because, this song needs drums in it. There's so much musicality in his drums, his dynamics, and again, Kirk, sorry if I'm getting a little too technical for you here, but paradiddles. No, but like he adds to the song. I don't know if that makes sense, but like there's just like when you look at a song from a whole, he sees it in like a painting sense, right? Like there's like a movie.
I mean, that's kind of the question I asked you earlier.
Yeah.
Like as somebody like that is just so artistic, right? Mm-hmm. So artistic. It's like painting a painting, right? There's some people that think of drumming and it's so technical and you're like reading sheet music or whatever you're doing, like in any instrument, right? It's like pop, pop, yeah. And they're just like,
yeah. Oh,
that sounded great. I just made something new up. And it's like you're painting all these brush strokes. And then people are like, how'd you come up with that? I just played. But someone like him, I bet he's like sitting over the desk and going, I bet if I added this to this, to that, to this.
He's got like that weird, like serial, like you're trying to chase, like, where's the serial killer? He's doing that with his song and everything. Like, well, I put this here and this here and this here. Right. And yeah, absolutely. There's just, he is one of those drummers, like I said, for all of my musicians, really, it's like, who it is. Like if you just singled out a drum track of Neil Peart's, you'd be able to tell that's Neil Peart. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So he's my link, my number 2 on my Rushmore. Again, I said I could talk about him for days on end, but we're not going to do that because we want to hear everybody else's Rushmore. So Kirk, give me your link on your Rushmore of drummers.
It's kind of similar to you. It wasn't hard to figure out who my top 2 were going to be, but I'm going to go with a different person than you're fighting with, but I'm going to go with Led Zeppelin, John Bonham. And the reason being is, we've talked about this. We've been doing Music March now for 4 weeks, and every single person that has come on this, we've kind of talked about the other parts of the band, and many of the band members could make every one of these lists. That's why they're the greatest bands ever. And Led Zeppelin probably makes, at least in the classic rock side of things, the greatest band ever, Rushmore. They're there because of each one of the parts. But if I was to pinpoint what the best part would absolutely be their drumming. I didn't know this because I'm not so technical, Andy, but I remember one day you were over at the house, kind of when I think we were talking about a Rushmore. Like I said, who's your favorite drummers and things like that. And you brought me to a video of like, man, you've got to see this. And so it was like him doing these different time signatures that had never been done and like were influential on others. And you were like that, what is it, a triad or something, like where they do like 3 beats at a time. And so anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about, but like, it's things that were just like mind blowing at the time. He's so influential on what rock music became. He changed the sound of what rock will be. And really, I think many of the guys that we want to put on this list, he is their number 1 or 2 or whatever. He's at the top of the list. We could talk about all of the songs that they do, you know, Stairway and Immigrant Song. And I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I mean, there's so many things that he did great. But I think the main thing for me is I love the music. If it comes on the radio or if I'm playing Spotify, it's probably on there somehow or another. And lastly, when I was researching, how many people said that was the influence. So I have to have him on the list without shadow of a doubt. John Bonham, Led Zeppelin, my link, my number 2. Yeah, I just couldn't pass him up. So we're gonna jump into Cade. Cade, man, surprising first 2, man. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm excited to hear who your top 2 are.
Yeah. For me, same thing. 1 and 2, solid. 3 and 4, definitely had to think about it, but 1 and 2, no question. So that brings us to number 2, which Andy mentioned before and bashed the entire band, which is Keith Moon for The Who.
Let's go.
Yeah, Keith Moon.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about that.
Don't apologize to me. Yeah, Keith Moon, man, he's just, I don't even know what to say. I mean, he's like what 4 drummers wish they could do, as one person. I mean, he can play, and it's not technical. It's just the passion and the creativity and the beats, and just, man, yeah, absolutely amazing. And then the stories of him destroying hotel couch cushions, just banging on it all night, just practicing.
He's another guy that passed really soon, right? Was he a 27 guy?
Oh no, yeah, Keith Moon died young.
Yeah, but I mean, like, was he one of those that died at 27 years old?
Oh, no, I think it was in his 30s. But yeah, he died really, really young.
Yeah, so I know he died young. I know they've had to replace him, but he's irreplaceable, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And we actually talked about the Who. He's over there bashing the Who.
Bruh.
Here's the deal. I put John Entwistle on my bassist. He is for me. And let me just say this. I think just like Queen got a revamping with some of the TV and movies, I think CSI brought the Who back, man. Like that intro, like I can't get over it. So, but the Who is a great band. Keith Moon deserves to be on the list. He was bouncing around with Chad Smith. That was the other guy that I kind of fought with, him and David Grohl. That was my 3 that I was kind of who's going to be there. But yeah, great pick, man. Don't worry about Andy. He don't know nothing. He don't know nothing about drumming.
Here we go. Let me just clear my name for a minute, okay? I'm not bashing the Who. What I'm saying is that I just don't listen to them. Listen, look, they played the Super Bowl when the Saints.
No, actually, your exact words. Your exact words were, I don't ever, whoever says, oh yeah, let's go listen to the Who. So honestly, that's worse than saying no one listens to the Who. Because you're saying, why would you listen to the Who?
I will say this though, we talked about Super Bowl shows. The Who was very underwhelming.
Oh no, absolutely. There's my point. That's what I'm saying is that. Anyway, I'll just stop there. Listen. I love Keith Moon. I love the pick. I think he's a fantastic drummer. In fact, I have a tattoo. You can't see it here, but I have the animal. I don't have a tattoo of Keith Moon, but the animal. The creators of that, they based a lot of the mannerisms and different things off of Keith Moon, right? How crazy and erratic he is, and so yeah, I get that, and he's gonna make a top.
Dude, have you ever seen, talking about erratic? Have you ever seen the video of the drummer of the guy that said he showed up at the wrong gig?
Yeah, and he's playing
and he's like,
he's got like the double kick. Is that the one with like the gold vest?
He was on The Office.
Yeah. He looks like he's from Wedding Singer, but
that's the guy.
Huh?
He was on The Office.
He was the guy on The Office when they all had the band with Robert California.
Nice.
So right, and he's like flipping his sticks and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. That's funny. I forgot about that. Yeah. So
all right, man. So look, we're at the end of this thing. The mountain. We're etching in George. We're etching that guy in. Who is the George of these 3 lists? So, Andy, Bring it, baby.
I think this is not going to shock anyone. I think that this guy actually should be on Mount Rushmore, right? I think this is like we should find another spot on the mountain, and not just Rushmore of drummers, Rushmore of people, right? This guy, if you talk
Man
to
crush.
any drummer who knows what they're talking about, this guy is definitely in the top there. Maybe not top 4 for everybody, but it's, you look at the critics, everybody, right? This is just who we go to. And I'm going to go with Bonzo, better known as John Bonham, for a Crushmore.
So that's 3 Crushmores, huh?
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with it, but there have been a few Crushmores here. But John Bonham, man, there are things that he did. And you got to think about this, not just, you know, if you brought Bonham today, he would be a fantastic drummer. But think about this guy's doing this in the 70s, right? Before there's the ability and all of the equipment and just everything that you can do to make those sounds. There's guys now that I guess you could say technically are better or have more skill and stuff. But again, place this guy back in the 70s and the things that he does. His style of playing is absolutely, to me, the best of all time. And it's what I rip off all the time. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is what I do. His kick patterns and stuff, how he's very like quick with those. It's almost like heel toe, just kind of like he didn't have a double bass pedal thing. Like he was doing it on a single pedal. He plays, look, if you've ever watched Moby Dick, which is the drum solo, his big famous one that he does, he plays a section of that with just his hands. Like he puts the drumsticks down and he's playing the toms and the snare with his hands. It's crazy. This dude is nuts. He's insane. His just obviously Led Zeppelin to me, you know, Jimmy Page made my Guitarists Rushmore, very influential to me. I remember listening to this as a kid. My dad would always put Led Zeppelin on. I kind of mentioned that in that episode as well. But Bonham was always the guy that I was just enamored with. Like I just can't stop listening to him. And there's so many things that he does. And what's interesting to me too is this. He doesn't play these fills that you're like, wow, that's unachievable. Like Neil Peart, there's some of the things that it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that. Some of the things that Bonham does, you're like, it kind of tricks you. You're like, oh yeah, I could do that. And you get behind a kit and you're like, how the heck is this dude doing this? Like, how is he making it sound this way? And you could play it the exact same way and you're like, I'm just doing something wrong. Like there was something untouchable about how he played the instrument that just, I don't think is ever going to be duplicated. He had a son, right, who kind of took over, had a band called Bonham, a drummer as well. And he was great. But again, he's not John Bonham. I don't think that sound is ever going to be matched. He's one of the guys too that you can listen to drummers today and you can be like, that's a Bonham lick, right? That's a Bonham groove. That is very influenced by Bonham.
I love that word, groove. That's a Bonham groove.
There's so many drumisms that we use. You know that it's not called a chair or a seat that we drum on. It's a throne. You have to have a throne. Yeah. Anyway, so
I have one back in the bathroom back there.
But yeah. So there's so many things that you can listen to today and be like, yeah, that guy is definitely trying to sound like Bonham or is getting his influence from Bonham. He's another drummer that I could talk about for days, right? And really not even scratch the surface of the influence that he's had on me and how great of a drummer that I believe that he is. But Bonham, my number one, Mike George on my Rushmore. There we go.
We had already kind of discussed all this, and I was like, dude, how are you going to keep those two guys off? What are you talking about? That's the only thing you've ever talked about to me about drumming since I've known you. So there's no way. But anyways, yeah, I get your point.
But my point was that I just like, I got in there. I don't give anybody else other chances. Like there's so many other drummers. And I guess it's the same for the Rushmores. It's like, it's hard to cut off at 4, but I was like, now I only have to pick 2. So I wanted to give myself a little bit more of a challenge, but at the end of the day, I'm like, there's no way I can do it. If I did episode,
it goes without saying, without further ado, without I don't think it's any surprise. We kind of talked about it. I did mine in a different order, but I'm going to have another, and I'm going with Neil Peart.
Oh my gosh,
he's going to be my George. He's G-Dub for me. And here's the thing. I totally agree with everything you just said about Bonham. I literally, again, think they're probably the number one band. We talked about Plant. We talked about Page. We've talked about the whole. Jones. We talked about all these guys. But here's the deal. I had a lot more influence coming into kind of that classic rock music with Rush, and honestly, look, when we first started Rushmore, I was trying to lobby somehow to have our intro music Tom Sawyer. Because Rush, right? We were trying to think of every funny thing to do at Rush. And dude, Rush is awesome. I think all three can be on a list everywhere. But everything that you guys said, it's a crush. Oh, by the way, this is probably our first three-way Crushmore. Is that right? Right? I think this is the first time we've had all three.
Yeah, it's gotta be. I'll have to fact check that.
We've had some guests before, but I think it's the first time everybody at least had one. And so
that just goes to show you. That just goes to show you, like, there's no doubt that Neil Peart is one of the greatest.
So he is. I just love his style. I loved when he got older. He was wearing like the skull cap. He just looked like somebody's granddad out there, and he is just murdering it, right? YYZ and Tom Sawyer. I said so. Tom Sawyer had this weird sound. I remember hearing it like late '90s, and when it came out, that bzzz, like I'm thinking straight into some sci-fi 70s music, like Logan's Run or something. Like it just had, and I was just hooked. So I bought, it was the first time I'd ever bought anything that wasn't kind of in my era, wasn't like hip hop or pop or kind of just the rap or the rock of the time, 80s. This is the first time I bought something like earlier. And I bought a Rush Greatest Hits because I wanted to listen to that Tom Sawyer over and over again. And then I moved on to their other stuff. I'm still to this day mesmerized. There's oftentimes I'm like, Spotify, play Rush, right? Just because I want to hear those drums. Those drums are phenomenal. I've watched that YouTube of the drum solo probably more than any drumming I've ever watched in my life. When he's like that one you're actually talking about, where he's going xylophone and then beep, 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 like all these on these thing cowbells, right? Or whatever. And they're not even cowbells. They're like these different percussions and different. It's so weird to me. And you guys all know the real words, but dude, to me, it is absolutely, he's on another level to me. Like, I'm like, is this guy even human? I've watched some really good, like, drummers. You know what I'm really fascinated with? Bucket drummers, right? And I'm like, I often think, what would Neil do with a bucket? It's just, he's just awesome. He's my George. I knew it from the beginning. I was going to go 1-2 with those guys. And when you discussed that you were going to take him off, I was like, okay, well, I got him on, so that's no big deal. So anyway, so let's close this thing down with our guest. And Kade, man. Kade, love the 3 picks so far. This is G-Dub. This is George. He's our number one. He's it, man. He's the mountain. Who you got?
He's definitely not Crushmore, but and we've never talked about him, but it's actually Ginger Baker. From
Ooh, good pick.
Been number one.
That's a wild card. That's a good pick.
Yeah, since I learned how to drum, like I think when I first started drumming, I looked on YouTube like drummers, and then he was the first video, and then I just watched him. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And then I looked into Cream, and I was like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. It's like, and then you listen to Cream, and you're like, how are 3 people making this music? Like this sounds like an orchestra, and it's a bassist, a drummer, and Eric Clapton on guitar, and then
well,
Jack
Clapton
Bruce.
almost made my guitarist, and we talked about this, huh? Like I was really fighting to have him on. Yeah, I love Cream.
Yeah, Cream, awesome. And then Ginger Baker, he was a rock drummer who insisted that he never played rock, and so he was, he's genre bending, and he had like this Afro beat style. He's in an Afro beat band at one point. But then he had match grip, sticking, and he played on the ride a lot. So he had a lot of jazz influence. He was really Cream in that era. He like kind of was the forefather of metal, like that early. He was like the early renditions of metal drumming. He made double kick like popular, like with 2 actual kick drums, and then elongated solos too in the songs, the drum solos.
Love all these technical terms.
Yeah,
I love it.
Oh,
I mean, if you pick the right person.
Yeah, I can talk about him forever though, but yeah, Ginger Baker, absolutely the best.
I am so surprised that you didn't pick anybody 90s past, like 2000-ish, 2000, like, and I'm not surprised that you didn't pick them so much, because I hear your list. I'm surprised because of the influence, but honestly, if you think about it, this just shows how the degradation of actual band rock music is going.
Yep.
I mean, everything's so synthesized and done with computers and all that. There's so many different kind of sounds. A real classic drummer, guitarist, they are not dying, but I was watching a video the other day. In the 80s, when I was growing up, it was cool to be the drummer. It was cool. Like now it's kind of like, oh, you playing a band? Cool. Yeah. Okay. But if you got to be like a rapper now, right? Or you got to be like a YouTuber or something, you know?
Right.
But I mean, all the girls wanted to be with the guitarist. You know what I'm saying? Not in the beginning. The guys that are making the money, right? You're like, oh, you're going to be Eddie Van Halen? But yeah, now it's like, oh, they're in a band, whatever.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Well, so like when I started playing drums, it's funny because nobody played drums. Everybody picked up the guitar, right? Everybody did that. And it's like, so all of my friends, it's like, hey, I need you to be in my band because you're the only drummer that I know. Hey, I need you to be in my band.
Hey, I need you to be on my worship team because you're the only drummer I know.
Yeah, that was part of it too, right? So, wow, really good picks. I like our Rushmores. So many. This is the most Crushmores that we've had, I think. And also
a triple Crushmore, a triple.
The first time that we've had a triple Crushmore on an episode. So,
nice.
Man, that was awesome. Cade, thank you for being here
today. Now, one last thing. Andy, are you okay with him not having Bonham on his list?
I mean, we'll talk about it later, but
because it sounded like
you have like Ginger Baker and you've got Neil Peart and you've got these other guys on your list.
Keith Moon. Hey, you replaced Bonham with Keith Moon?
Stop this. I don't not like Keith Moon.
Keith Moon hater.
Great. I just don't listen to the Who. I just don't do it.
Who? Who's on first?
Kirk, tell me this. How often do you listen to the Who? Because I'm gonna put you on the spot now. How often are you like, hey, Spotify, play the Who?
Here's the deal. And I'm gonna be completely honest. And we were talking about doing hot takes, right? Right. Yeah. This is a part of kind of my hot take. So let me just say this. I won't turn off the Who. I won't turn them off. I for one don't necessarily pick the music I want to play. I am all about listening to the radio. All about it. And so if they come on, cool. But I love the nostalgic. Here's the hot take. My nostalgic part is when I get in the car, I don't want to listen to my own list that's going to be the same thing over and over. I love the idea of something new coming out. And when I hear the Who, I'm happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was your roundabout way of saying no, you don't listen to the Who that often. So
I don't listen to Led Zeppelin that often either, if that's the same thing.
I listen to them often. So anyway, and Rush and all of those. So looking forward to the hate mail for the Who, although I don't know anybody who really listens to the Who knows how to work mail or YouTube or anything like that. So I think I might be safe. But anyway,
Andy, can you come over and change the time on the VCR?
Yeah. So anyway, Cade, thank you for being here today. Thanks for being a guest on the show, helping us wrap up Music March. Any final words?
It's been a great time, man. Thank you, Cade.
Any final words that you have to say about drumming or about the list or the Rushmore or anything like that, Cade?
No, I mean, final words, the Who don't suck. So that's all I got to leave you with.
Okay, well that works. That works. That's fine. Well, I appreciate it. And hey, look, there's our Rushmore of drummers.
All right, Andy. So we have come to the end of Music March. Man, what a great month it's been. We have gone through our vocalist, guitarist, and bassist. And we finished off this week with our drummers, with our guest Cade. And by the way, thank you to all the guests that's come on and given their Rushmores. It's been so much fun to kind of bounce off and hear their opinions. But so thinking about this, Andy, we were kind of thinking, man, it has been really fun kind of giving each specific list. And we also talked that there's so many guys or bands that have individuals that could have made all of our lists. But what if, like, we did a kind of like a Who's Your George segment of, if you take all the G dubs, every George, and you put it together and make a super group, these mega superstars taking their talents to South Beach like LeBron, they ought to team up together and make that super team. Man, what a treat it would be for the fans. I automatically think of, right off the bat, Chris Cornell and what Rage Against the Machine when they joined together and just made that kind of group. And I remember I was blown away. It was like, wow, like all these different parts. So what I thought would be a good idea, and Andy, is you take your 4, I take my 4, and we see who's got the better band. Just kind of like talk through it. Maybe they don't even work well together. I don't know. So yeah. Andy, what do you think? Who are the 4 people that you put on top of your mountain? The Rushmore of bands.
The Rushmore of bands for me is interesting. I'm going to start like you build any good team from the foundation, from the rhythm section. Let's go drums. Obviously today, my number 1, my George, was John Bonham. I think if you put John Bonham with anybody, the band's automatically amazing, right? So, but we start with John Bonham and all of his skills and everything I talked about today, which is awesome. We go back to last week when I talked about my George for bassist was Geddy Lee. I already think it's off to a solid start, man. If you've got Geddy Lee, it's crazy though. Like Geddy Lee would jump from having Neil Peart to John Bonham, my 1 and my 2, right? So he doesn't really fall off that far as bandmates go. That would be a really cool, just 1-2. In fact, I'd like to just hear those 2 as a band, right? Just a rhythm section playing together would be really cool. Then we go back to my guitarists, and now you start throwing in the wild card here. This is where it would be interesting, and I'll tell you why I think it might work. My George of guitarists was Dimebag Daryl from Pantera and Damage Plan, from that whole thing, and I think that it works in this sense. Let's talk about John Bonham and Dimebag Daryl together at the same time, right? There's a lot of Southern influence. Now you're like, well, Southern influence, Led Zeppelin's from England, right? How does that
They're
work?
not from Alabama?
Yeah, I know, right? They're from England. How does that work, right? Well, here's what happens. They were very influenced by that blues sound, and you listen to a lot of their music, and it's very bluesy and everything. And I really think that when you pair Dimebag with that, I think it would work really well. Then we wrap it up with my vocalist. What is the cherry on top of my band? And it's none other than Chris Cornell on the vocals. We talked about Dimebag. One of the big things that he makes his guitar like a siren, like screech or whatever. Man, Chris Cornell hits some of those notes too. It's like, I would be very, very interested to hear how this band would sound together. If I had a dream supergroup, now look, 3/4 of my band is no longer with us. So that maybe would never obviously be a possibility, but it is fun to think about what kind of music they would put out and how fun that would sound. What do you got for your group? Or well, real quick, what do you think about my group? What are your thoughts?
So yeah, I think I think this band would be really killer. One, I like you said, Geddy Lee doesn't leave too much. I mean, he's jumping from one mountain to the next. But one thing that I think would be unique is that's probably the first time that Geddy Lee will play in a 4-piece band, right? Most of the time he was 3-piece, right? So that'd be kind of interesting. And then, but Dimebag is just a little bit heavier than everybody else. I don't know Dimebag as well as you do, obviously, but I'm sure he's got multiple different skills. But it would be interesting to see that kind of riffing and that kind of situation to go in and play with them. But I think Chris Cornell, and I mentioned him coming in. Chris Cornell probably transcends. He could be probably in any band. He could probably be in like a schooner band, man. Like just whatever he play, whatever. His voice is just it's just so great. Yeah. And I would definitely buy tickets to this band. You pieced together a great band, and I'm kind of jealous because look, I'm going to jump into my band, and I think. Look, I'm going to be transparent. I think there are some issues with the band kind of coming together. I think it's a great band. I would love, and they're all just so top of the charts to me that I think when you become a musician like that, it's like when somebody gets traded from, one team to the other, you kind of learn the playbook. You learn different things. You have to figure that out and whatever. And I think some of them would adapt. Here's where we'll go. So you're talking about that rhythm section or whatever. And I'm going to bring out, we talked about Neil Peart today, which is Geddy's other side, right? So that's my George of drummers. And then you go to the bassist, and this is kind of where it gets a little different for me. When it goes to the bassist, I'm bringing in Flea, right? And so Flea is all about that slap bass, a little bit more newer kind of vibe, new groove like type thing. Like it's just it's a little different, kind of like probably your Dimebag. He's probably like for me. But then you bring in some really heavy late 70s, early 80s vibe with the other side of the band, which is Eddie Van Halen and Steve Perry. Now, I think that half is just really cool. If we could get Flea to work into that construct, I think this band is crazy good. I think that's probably the wild card for me, and I think for you, the Dimebag side. So here's the unique part that I think of. Just imagine this: having a concert, right? Headliner, Andy's Rushmore Band, opening Kirk's Rushmore Band, like that. Those 8 guys, uniquely, we didn't have a same George. So uniquely, we were able to make 2 separate complete bands, but 2 guys are actually in the same band, with Rush. But if you even look a little deeper, just go down a couple more layers, like our Link and our Rosie. There's a few other guys in there. We mentioned Tool a few times. I think we mentioned Led Zeppelin a few times. We mentioned Rush a few times. We mentioned several of these, Rage Against the Machine a few times. So with that being said, there's a lot of these guys that are, they're just already in great bands, right? So I think they'll adapt. And I think this would be a great lineup.
Let me talk specifically about yours. You were saying that there may be an issue with Flea in there. Here's what I think. I think your division happens. I think the bass and the drums work really well together. Rush does so many things. When you listen to some of their songs, they're very progressive. So like they have like ska influence in some of their stuff, like Caribbean kind of vibes in some of their things. They have like more kind of like heavy metal feeling things. Mm-hmm. They've got some rock. They got some cleans like orchestra kind of feeling things. So they're all over the place. I think Flea and Neil Peart would work together tremendously. I would be so excited to see that. And think about like just all the craziness and slap and everything that he does, and then with all the fills that Neil Peart does, I would love to hear that. I'm thinking of it in my head. I think the division here happens between those two and Van Halen and Steve Perry. I think that's where it would be interesting. I do think it would work, and obviously all of this is hypothetical. None of this we could ever make happen.
Which you mentioned that we lost a few guys, right? So there are 2 guys going on my side as well. So
yeah. This could have been a possibility, 5 years ago or whatever, but 6 years, whatever it was. But yeah, I'm more interested to see, I guess, and not even really the Van Halen. How does Steve Perry work with your other 3? That would be what would be kind of interesting to me.
I think that's also something. So like, Steve Perry is more like he's more of the lighter side, if you will, more love ballad like kind of vocals, more on that that really pop side of the 70s, to be honest. And then you kind of come into some harder rock, and that there is just some different styles. But again, I think all 4 of them are well enough to meld. But it'd be interesting. If I was to vote, for me, I love my 4 guys, but I'd probably go to your band first. Like I would say your band would be the headliner because I think they would just meld a little better. But man, I love my 4. So what
I
do you
would
think?
watch either band. I would pay whatever the ticket price was because that would be insane to see those two groups. Here's what I want to do. I want to ask the Rushmore community because I didn't I didn't put a lot of thought into a lot of this super group vibe. But I think one thing that makes a band, and you mentioned like early on, like one of the things you like doing with band is like figuring out the band name and how they came up with it. Rushmore community. If you could name my band and Kirk's band, put it in the comments. Let us know what would the band name be, and a million points for whoever's the most creative. I don't know what
a million zillion points. Right?
I think it would be cool. So again, mine is just for those. Again, it's a reminder if you're thinking of the name. So I've got Bonham, I've got Geddy Lee, I've got Dimebag Daryl, and Chris Cornell. That is my 4. And then Kirk, what's your 4?
I've got Peart, Flea, Van Halen, and Steve Perry.
Okay, so do your best, Rushmore Show. Let us know what would the band name be for both of these groups.
That would be awesome. So you guys leave in the comments that name, but also leave your Rushmore of drummers. And if you've been running with us the last 4 weeks, you probably also have a Rushmore of bands. Let's see if your band can beat our band. So you got a lot to do, a lot of homework, man. We are just so appreciative of this week, man. What do you think about Music March, Andy?
So obviously this is the thing I'm most passionate about, probably, from a topic side that we're going to talk about here in Rushmore. So I'm kind of sad that it's over, but didn't like Dr. Seuss say, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Oh.
That's a great quote.
Yeah, it was fun. This is something that
hey, you know what he wrote? Whoville. Oh,
bring back the
man,
Who. Bring back the Who. Sore subject. Anyway, hey guys, Rushmore Show. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell.
Next month, man, spring's here. Baseball's back. We're gonna go jumping into some baseball Rushmores, man. We're not just gonna do the normal. Of course, you guys are gonna tell us who the best players are, but we're gonna come up with some real fun stuff for us for next month. We're gonna talk a little bit of baseball. We're gonna go from Andy's favorite to probably my favorite, and it's gonna be a good fun time.
Hopefully, we knock it out the park. Hey, there's one.
The chicks dig the long ball, baby.
Anyway, so we so appreciate you guys sticking around this long and looking forward to everything to come. And let's wrap it up like we always do, Kirk. Remember that this is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more.
Peace.
Peace.